Welcome to our presentation about our findings on social procurement within the city of Parramatta. So firstly, I would like to introduce our team. My name is Liz, and joining me today are Mark, Tony, Ray, and Matthew. Together, we will walk you through the table of contents for our project, covering our research area, methodology, discussions, critical findings, and finally, recommendations. And firstly, I will talk about the social procurement. It's when organizations use their purchasing power to generate positive social and community outcomes, directly helping local SMEs and underrepresented groups. It matters because it transforms standard economic spending into sustainable community wealth. And our project focused on Area 17, located between the Sydney Olympic Park and Silverwater in the next slide. And we'll analyze how the local council will support local SME like restaurant, cafes, and convenience store in Granville Point and Newington to overcome barriers and successfully engage in this framework. And now Mark will discuss research methodology.
To understand how social procurement is currently viewed within the Parramatta LGA, our team used qualitative inquiry through short in-person surveys conducted directly within local businesses. We believe this approach is important because existing literature only explains the broader concept of social procurement instead of how local businesses perceive it in practice. We chose in-person surveys because many businesses were unfamiliar with the term itself, so direct conversation allowed us to explain the concept clearly to ensure their responses were accurate. This also helped create more natural discussions and willingness to engage in the survey. We spoke with business owners, managers, and staff members across small, medium, and large businesses. This variety is important because it helped understand whether the operational scale and priorities were affecting their engagement in social procurement. Our questions explored their awareness of social procurement, current sourcing behaviours, willingness to engage in future, and any potential barriers stopping them. These factors are important because it is unrealistic for social procurement to expand without considering operational and financial pressures that businesses face. From these responses, several recurring themes emerged. Many businesses showed interest in social procurement once the concept was explained. However, most responses also reflected awareness and uncertainty around how implementation would begin. These findings were also largely consistent with literature, particularly around how awareness and uncertainty surrounding implementation.
As reflective of the data shown, apparent barriers exist in the implementation of social procurement within Parramatta City Council, particularly among small and medium-sized businesses. One key finding from the survey is the extremely low awareness of social procurement, as out of the 10 businesses, all answered no when asked if they've heard the term. These results, with the analysis of our literature, demonstrates that, to an extent, the primary focus of small to medium enterprises is the profitability of the business, suggesting that adoption of social procurement could potentially hinder the business in achieving its main objective. However, many still were open to adopting social procurement in the future. Of the 10 interviewed, 7 stated that they would consider social procurement in a greater capacity, suggesting resistance isn't necessarily ideological or correlated to the limited resources at their disposal. In addition, other potential barriers that businesses identified as stopping social procurement are time, money, education, and programs. Therefore, the data supports the broader academic view that small to medium enterprises are willing to engage with social procurement but require a stronger framework, policies, education, guidance, and funding before implementation can occur effectively.
So although there is an understanding of the benefits of social procurement, there are various barriers towards implementation beyond legal requirements. Key findings from the primary research conducted showed there was no awareness of the term social procurement. Businesses engaged in socially beneficial practices informally, and many would consider greater participation if support mechanisms existed, as explained by Tony. Key weaknesses of this research method, however, is the limited sample size provided. Although it includes a variety of industries, it does not represent all industries within the area. And the sampling method for this data was based on businesses who were willing to engage in the survey. Areas of future research is utilizing industry-specific responses to gauge the most efficient and effective methods to get businesses to engage in social procurement.
So our two recommendations are very consistent with the council's wishes to avoid providing direct monetary incentives to business regarding social procurement. So our first recommendation revolves around the idea of the development of council-led educational programs and workshops that focus on the explanation of social procurement. in simple and practical terms, whilst using the same events for the introduction of local supplier directories and partnership programs to ensure community-based procurement practices. Now, the second recommendation is to create simplified social procurement frameworks that are suitable for small businesses with limited staffing, limited resources, and limited capacity, whilst also providing another non-monetary incentive for businesses, which is awards ceremonies. So it is a way to get their name out there, for them to brand themselves and market their businesses to the community. Here are our references that we've used. Thank you guys for listening, and I think we're going to open up the floor to some questions.